hey, and there's so many people, this is fun. All right, the reason I am here in front of you, obviously, as you probably all know, is that I was really fortunate to be cast in the beginning of 2020, January to be precise, on the show $1 Million List in New York. I don't know if anybody in this room is familiar with that television show. It's, I think, probably one of the more coveted spots in reality television. When I was cast on the show, I thought obviously that this was going to be the beginning of the rest of my incredible career, that it was going to bring me so much fame and so many fabulous things that it would completely change my life, and it was going to solve pretty much all of my problems. Because as reality TV probably would do, right? Because that makes everything so much easier, I'm sure, especially since I had, at the time in 2020, my kids were the ages of, they were 3, 5, and 7. I thought that I was running this incredible real estate business, and when I was cast in the show, I thought, I am such a boss, this is gonna be amazing, I have it all figured out, and I'm like running a little company, you know, no problem, I got my family, I've got this business, and it's gonna be amazing. I'm just gonna start filming the show, and it's gonna be really easy. And I really quickly realized that this role here of the boss, of the CEO that everybody said I was, they're like, yeah, you're the mom boss. You're gonna get it, mom boss, the CEO, it's gonna be great. It was not that great, okay? And I don't know if anybody knows what an actual CEO does, but I think that we all throw this word around here a lot, especially since, you know, every real estate agent, we're supposed to be the CEO of our business. The CEO, their actual job description involves making sure that there is profit and there is revenue, and that's their highest and best use, and that's the only thing they're supposed to be doing all day long. So that, if you're trying to be a one-off agent on your own and also run an entire household, be a wife, be a mother. By the way, not only was I the first female cast member on $1 Million List in New York, I was also the first mother cast member, the first cast member that was a wife, the first cast member that had to change their actual outfits really in between things instead of taking off their tie to pretend it was like the next scene. Okay, the only one who had to really worry about like hair, makeup, all the things, which by the way, during COVID, I learned how to do really, really well. I still had somebody else do this for me today, but that was because I wanted to be able to practice for you. And this whole idea of being a CEO, while sounds super cliche, everybody's like, oh, how do you do it all? How do you do it all? Like I'm doing it all. How do you be everywhere? I feel like you're everywhere. How do you make it happen? What I realized was that there was no way that I was going to be able to do that. And a lot of us actually think that we are the CEOs of our lives and our business, but the truth is that so many of us have mastered just enough to be able to be the CEO of our business, but our actual lives no longer have a CEO present whatsoever. Remember, the CEO is supposed to be focusing on revenue, their highest and best use at pretty much all costs, because otherwise they're risking the entire company. And they're supposed to be making sure that they're making all the real decisions. They're supposed to be telling everyone what to do. They're supposed to have their head on straight. I don't know how anybody's supposed to do that while they're trying to run both. And what happened to me was that I realized that I thought that this entire experience was going to bring me this, which was going to look just like this, obviously, as you can imagine. And it totally did not do that. It was the actual opposite. What it did was, this is just probably 18 months before I was cast on $1 Million List in New York, or maybe 2 years. Tommy's a newborn. And this is what my life still felt like at home. Because when I was cast on $1 Million List in New York, I was still on a team. I had no support system. I had no assistant. I had literally scant childcare that kind of worked with how I was doing drop-offs and pickups, and then weekends it was just like a total race to the bottom madness of trying to get to open houses and trying to make it all happen. And what happened was I started filming January. I make it to the middle of February. My new assistant that was supposed to start, which was never going to be the right fit anyway, but she was going to be my new assistant. It was going to make everything okay because she was going to figure it all out, right? Because she wasn't trained. She was just like me when I got into the business. It was going to be totally a circus, but still I had this assistant starting at the end of February. I got so sick from fitting and filming, which by the way at the time meant 3 days a week, 3 to 4 hours a day, first time in my life ever really being on camera, hair, makeup, trying to figure it all out, I literally got so incredibly sick that I had to take not only a week off of filming, but I also had to take a week and a half off of business in general, while I still had no help, nobody to show listings, no plan. It was a complete and total disaster. And what was such a moment for me that really freaked me out and made me realize that I had been totally running my business and my life like a chicken with my head cut off, and not really valuing what my highest and best use was, which was obviously being the actual CEO, not just the CEO, CFO, CTO, janitor, all the things, diaper changer, everything. It was really that what happened was the producers pulled me aside and they said, listen, we love you, we picked you, we waited for 7 years to find someone like you. You have a compelling story, it's awesome, you're gonna be great. If you don't get it together and figure out how you're gonna do this, the opportunity is gone. We don't have time for this. We can't lose a week, this is just not gonna work. You're gonna have to figure it out. And for me, it was like, I really thought I had it together. Like, I didn't realize it was such a house of cards of having kind of everything cobbled together, and it's so dependent on me and like my mental filing cabinet of where everything was, you know, that feeling of like, I know where everything is, I'm gonna be fine, I can show up for this, I can do it myself, I can do that, I know how to do that, I can do that, I'll just get more childcare so I can be in the office more, I can make it happen. Which, not a good business model, okay? So, fortunately, in March, I was able to take a little bit of a pause and really reflect, but I did get myself a new assistant. I did start to figure out how to make it happen. And over the last almost 5 years, I have learned so much about actually being the CEO of my actual business. My revenue has grown tenfold by embracing these 3 rules I'm going to talk to you about. And my life is so much better. My children respect me. My husband appreciates so much how I've decided to like actually take control of running the things the way they are. I have a team of 10. It's such an incredible feeling, and not that everybody needs to have a team of 10, because there's aspects of that I'm sure nobody in this room wants, but there are some things that made me slowly get towards being able to say, I am actually running my business and prioritizing my highest and best uses and making myself actually happy. So rule number 1 is that you have to remember that, first of all, it's never going to be perfect. Your work and life integration, because there's no balance, people, it is called integration, will never be perfect. But if you want to have a career goal and you want to make it happen, you need to create rituals, routines, and a plan to leave the house. And so many of us know exactly what I'm talking about because of this whole you can work from home thing, you can work from anywhere, it's amazing. I will promise you that anybody in this room who you look up to that is really crushing it in this industry, there is a very small percentage of the day that they spend in their pajamas on their computer. The rest of the time, they are decked, or they're dressed appropriately for the neighborhood, but they are showing and they are out and they are meeting with clients. And the rituals and the routines, for me, those are my systems. For example, my children know that they must have their clothing out before they go to bed at night. They know that they must be dressed before breakfast. I know that I must be awake by 5:15 or my entire life falls apart. I have a trainer, I have a personal assistant, and that personal assistant, it took her almost a year and a half to put my life back together after neglecting it for 12 years. We're talking crazy stuff. We're talking like Delta SkyMiles numbers that are in 17 different places for a family of 5. Crazy stuff. And these systems and being able to have the rest of the people in your life on board with the systems is the way that this works. This means if you have decided that you don't drink during the week and you get up at 5:15 in the morning and you eat healthy and and your children eat certain foods, or that you're going to be having everybody's clothes ready the night before, your nanny, your significant other, your kids, everybody needs to be on the same page. It's like with dieting. You can't do it if you're not all in. You got to pick what you're going to do. You got to pick a road, and that's what it is. And everybody's got to be on board around you. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And for me, that was super, super important. Rule number 2 is that you need to own that you can't do it alone. This is probably one of the most difficult rules to understand, and I'm going to quickly explain to you one of the ways that you can baby step into getting yourself a little bit of help, no matter what the task is, to start feeling like you're able to focus on your highest and best use. So we take all of the tasks in the day and we list them out. And you mark them 1s, 2s, and 3s. I call these my 1s, 2s, and 3s. There's the fingerprints, there's the safety blankets, and there's the traffic jams. Now, the fingerprints are your number 1s. These are the things that only you can do. For me, my number 1s are putting my kids to bed at night, super important to me, being with certain clients in person, reaching out, doing all of those things, that's my number 1s. Nobody else can do those things, they will not be as impactful. Number 2, the number 2s are your safety blankets. Those are the things that are skilled activities. You're gonna have to train somebody to do that stuff. There's no way that you can just cast it off to somebody really quickly. They need to know what they're doing. And it might take you a little longer, especially if you've never hired anybody, to get somebody up to speed on that stuff. So I wouldn't start with those things. You're gonna be super frustrated, you're gonna throw everything out the window, and you're gonna say, I'm too controlling, I can't do this, I can't hire anybody. But the number 3s, that's where you start. The number 3s are the things I fondly refer to as the things that make you a worse person after you've done them. Okay, everybody has something like this, and it's different for everybody. For me, ironically, even though I love my children dearly, it is taking my kids to school in the morning. I don't do that. It makes me crazy. I like to get dressed in my silence after I hang out with them, have breakfast with them, take my daughter to the bus, but I need to come home and get dressed in silence. I cannot get ready while everybody's swirling around me like a hurricane. I just can't do that. It's not the way that I work. But I have structured my entire life so I'm able to do other things with them, come home early, be with them, put them to bed at night, all of that. Super, super important to me. These number 3s, you need to remember, are extremely important to start with, and there are very little things that you can start with that are baby steps. And in some cases, all you need to do is turn to your partner and say, hey, would you help me with this one thing? It puts me into a really bad mood when I do it, and maybe they're gonna be like, hey, it doesn't bother me at all, I'm totally happy to help you. Maybe you have kids that are over the age of 12, and you can ask them to do things. We probably should all be asking them to do things anyway. And this is going to be the baby steps that you think of. Now, outsourcing, obviously, there's a lot of things to think of outsourcing. This is actually my amazing personal assistant right here. She is incredible, and she's the one that helped me change my life. But now we're gonna get to rule number 3, because otherwise I'm gonna run out of time. And that is the most important rule of all as you make all of these changes, and you're gonna laugh and be like, what is she talking about? And that is that there will be judgment. Get ready, everybody. Especially the women out here. I think there's a lot of them. Everybody's gonna judge you when you start saying no to stuff, especially the stuff that everybody expects you to do. There's obviously gender roles, even things that are just expected of real estate agents to do. All of us have things that everybody expects of us that we're like, why do they expect me to be the one that has to do this? In some cases, for me, when I started using a showing agent, that was like the first time they were like, why can't you show the property? I was like, well, I have this person that's actually much better at doing it than me, and I can't be in every place at once, and sometimes I want to make sure that your showing is accommodated. And they were like, oh, okay, that's great. But I thought that was a rule number 1, right? I thought that was a number 1 for me. So this judgment could come from family members, it can come from friends, it can come from people that you look up to. It can be veiled comments that are under their breath that are kind of like, wait, I noticed that you never pick your kids up from school. I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't, because I'm a CEO of a little Fortune 500 company I call the Kirsten Jordan team, and there's no time for that. But I'll be home by 6 or 7, and I'll spend plenty of time with everybody. But if I switch gears and I try to go pick up somebody from school, it's not gonna work. And so my mantra when people say this stuff to me, so I don't get totally derailed, is I say to myself, what would that Fortune 500 company CEO say if somebody said that to them? Somebody was like, why aren't you in the middle of the day ruining your whole day to go do this thing for 10 minutes? They'd be like, well, I mean, I don't know, I'm saving the world's profit, revenue, it's my whole job, like they would never do that. So I hope that all of you pick a number 3, or maybe you have somebody who could do a number 2, and you outsource it. And I'm the only person that will probably be giving you less to do than anybody else at this conference. So please let me know what you decided to drop as your number 3, what inspired you. I'd love for you to follow me, message me. Thank you so much.